Hey, everybody. I'm Haley Gray. I'm the founder of the Women's Entrepreneur Network. And I'm here with you this late evening with my dear friend, Velma Gallant. And we'll see if Victoria Bentley manages to join us tonight. But we're going to be talking about kindness tonight. And I was like, hey, Velma, what topic are we talking about? And she says, kindness. I'm like, ooh, I kind of like that. I think we need more of that.
I think we do. I think we really do. There's a lot of ickiness on the interwebs these days, and all of that kind of stuff. And so I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking, how many of us are really unkind to ourselves too? Right?
You know, I kind of wonder if we would be our own friends if we treated, you know, the way that we treat ourselves. You know, would I be a friend of myself with the way I'm treating myself? I don't know. That really changed my perspective a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you give the same advice to your best friend that you're giving to yourself? Would you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself? Would you
Right.
talk to your
Exactly.
daughter or your son the way you talk to yourself?
Yeah, exactly. And hey, Hui, good to see you. Yeah, you know, that's really interesting, right? Because I think it is, you know, important, like, to have a great relationship with yourself. She says you're frozen. I'm hoping it's just LinkedIn or StreamYard being temporarily crazy.
Mm.
But, you know, like, I had a huge wake up call about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago now. And I basically had a doctor sit me down and say, hey, if you don't change your ways, you're going to die. I was over 400 pounds, 427 pounds. And it was, you know, it was kind of a wake up call. If you don't change your ways, you're going to die. And I realized that I was not being my own best friend. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was being really, really apathetic towards myself. I was just eating whatever my kids were eating. I didn't really care. Wasn't exercising. Kind of crappy to myself in so many different ways, physically, mentally, emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah, moms tend to do that. They tend to put other people over as a priority over themselves. And actually, a lot of people, I have noticed a lot of people worry about people that shouldn't really matter to them, what they think about them. They're kinder to them. And all of that kind of stuff. It's so interesting to watch, you know.
And I'm going to put myself dead last. And I was doing it also. To be fair, I had a kid in the middle of a medical crisis. My oldest had fallen off of a horse a couple of years prior, major psychiatric issues, traumatic brain injury, in and out of the hospital. Like we used to say, you know, she was in and out of the hospital like a bunch of teenage girls on a trampoline, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And it was just, you know, or, you know, that you almost got a whiplash, you know, because you didn't know where we were today. But, you know, I put her care and my other children's care ahead of my own needs. You know, which is another form of like not kindness, because one of the things that it took me a hot minute to really like wake up to is, if there is no you, there won't be a family. If there is no you, there won't be a business. If you're not kind to yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't take care of that relationship with yourself, there won't be much.
Yeah. Well, reality. I mean, like, that's that airplane analogy. You know, you put your own mask on first. Because the truth is if you didn't start taking care of yourself, who's going to take care of that daughter?
Right.
Right. And we justify ignoring ourselves with those kinds of things. oh, I have to ignore myself because I have to take care of this other thing. I'll catch up with myself later, and we never do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think some of that has been, it's generational, because I know my mom was like that. You know, we get the clothes, and she'd go to the secondhand store for herself, and we'd get the haircuts, and she'd find the cheapest thing possible for herself, right? Like, we always were in front of,
Mm-hmm.
was always the priority for mom, and I love that she cared so deeply about us for that.
Right.
And why do we do that? Like, I caught myself doing that with my own child many times.
Oh, it's a mom thing, right? It's a total mom thing. And I mean, I will say, right now I do have 2 kids in college, and I have one kid who's in boarding school. He's in an all boys military boarding school by choice. And the tuition bills suck mightily because, we're paying rent on 2 extra apartments and food and gas and utilities and, everything that goes with having 2 kids in college. And we're also paying for that other kid who's living in Virginia, living a state away. And, it's mighty. And I mean, there are times where, yeah, sorry guys, the reality is, we are not eating out very much, and we are being very conservative financially, hopefully, so our kids have a good life. But, at the same time, my husband was actually made a really interesting point that, it's almost like when you do the FAFSA every year, it's like, well, put down how much you earn. Okay, now write that check to the college. And, oh, never mind, you've got 2 kids, so you might be, or 3, you might be writing that much to each school.
Yeah. Well, and the responsibilities that we do put in place are one thing, right? And they are important and everything like that. And then it still is, how can we still be kind to ourselves in that experience, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that is the challenge, right? Like, how do you take care of yourself? How are you kind to yourself? How are you kind to each other? In a world where, yeah, okay, so here's my paycheck. Okay, I'm going to write that check to, Auburn University. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely a challenge as a parent to make it balance out. And make it so that, yeah, we are taking care of ourselves, and we do find ways to get creative with it. I think as moms, sometimes, I was talking to somebody today, and she said, for a while, my job was to take care of the family, find good deals, and get really creative. And I'm like, that's been true. That's very true.
Well, and I think sometimes the kindness is just acknowledging what you've accomplished, right? Because, I mean, it's like, well, but I have to do that. Yeah, you might have to do that, but it's still pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, if you saw somebody doing all of the things that you do for your family and for other people and all of that kind of stuff, you'd be going, man, you're awesome. But do we do that to ourselves?
Yeah, no, it's hard to do that, because I'm like, yeah, okay, this is what I signed up for 25-ish years ago when I was pregnant with my first. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of, I think, expectations that we have for ourselves. Well, of course I did that. And of course, I'm not doing as good of a job as other people might do in whatever situation, right?
Yeah. That comparison stuff.
All that comparisonitis, well, of course, my kids need the whatever. So I'm going to make sure that they have the whoozy what's it first before I get the thingamajig.
Yeah.
And of course, as moms, that sacrifice is real. And I think there's also, to be fair, some element of, there's some society patterning, but I also think that we as a species are kind of ingrained to take care of our young and put our young first.
Well, and yeah, because we want our gene pool to survive, right?
And if they weren't so darn cute, they probably wouldn't survive to adulthood.
Yeah, well, and that I do get all of that, because I mean I only have one, but I mean, so he's got a show coming up in May. It's going to be like an album release party and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and so I got the date, and I'm looking at hotels and stuff like that for that date, because like I'm going to be there, and
That's so cool.
like we do those things. I think the important part of it is that it not just get brushed off as I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
Right? That it really is, that we get to be proud of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We get to acknowledge ourselves, and it's just fine to phone up your girlfriend and say, hey, this was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
I
do know. Yeah. And that is cool. That is, that is cool. And that, I think that's, being kind to yourself, allowing yourself to enjoy the whole thing, right?
Absolutely. There, I think it might even be a chapter in my ebook. It's been a long time since I looked at my own ebook, but I wrote it about bragging buddies. Because I wanted to change the energy around bragging, right? Because bragging is, it's like, oh, such a braggart, right? There's not a negative thing, but bragging, all it really is celebrating. And so I still have, yeah, you're one of them. You're one of my bragging buddies that I get to go, hey, this really awesome thing happened.
Yep. And I'm curious if people watching have bragging buddies too. I know I have a couple of brag buddies, that don't take it as like, anything like, I'm not like being crazy. I'm like, yeah, hey, I finally, managed to do something right.
Well, how awesome is it to have those people that run up to you and go high five?
Yeah, like seriously, right?
Right? Like those are the ones. Those are the friends you want to be surrounding yourself, or the ones that sit there and go, that was awesome. And instead of,
you're amazing.
Yeah, they're the ones that celebrate you too. And you both do that. Yes. Y'all do that.
Aw, thank you, Dot. I try to be a bragging buddy. And it's just, I think it's important to have those bragging buddies, where you can find and you can chat with, hey, I finally managed, I managed to accomplish this thing that I am really proud of. I set myself some crazy ass goal and I did it. For me, sometimes crazy goals are, I'm going to post every day about my business. Y'all, that's really hard for me to do. Or, hey, I'm really proud of this job that we did. It can be hard to do that, like and do it publicly. I actually had a couple of years ago, I was, I'm trying to get out of the mindset, that typically female mindset of, aw, shucks, it's nothing. Because I remember being in corporate and having, male colleagues that I worked with and getting complimented on something. And I was working with somebody else and I'm like, oh, shucks, it's nothing. I did it with such and such, and they didn't say, oh, shucks, it's nothing. They were like, oh yeah, thanks. And I was like, wait a minute,
they all do the Tim the Toolman thing, right?
Right. And so like, I have like kind of learned over time that, hey, it's okay to be proud of your accomplishments. And so I was sharing something on my social media and somebody's like, yeah, you're really good at sharing your accomplishments. And I'm like, seriously? I share probably this much, like, one little teeny tiny pinky full. And, and then I get some guy going, well, yeah, you're sharing all your accomplishments. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way to take that little balloon and kind of pop it.
It's interesting. I just watched it. It said, I watched it on Instagram. He said, use the difficulty. It was an actor, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was on a stage, like a play stage, and there was some improvising going on, and it ended up that the door he was supposed to come through, the improvising that was going on there, they threw a chair and it blocked it. And so he's like, use the difficulty. Like, if we're doing improv, if it's serious, destroy it. If it's a comedy, trip over it. But it was like, use the difficulty. So that it reminds me of that, because it's like, if that guy's saying, you're really good at sharing your celebration, you're really good at sharing your accomplishments.
Yeah, you're over, self-promoting. And I'm like, thanks.
No, and this is exactly what I teach my clients, because this is what I do for my clients. I help them promote themselves, because that's how you get your business going.
Well, and that is how you get more clients, right? If you're not promoting yourself, if you're not selling yourself on a regular basis, and like I tell my clients, if you're not promoting yourself all the time, like way more than you think you ought to have to, the reality is you're probably not doing it enough, because people don't see your posts. They really don't. They don't remember. They're doing 5,000 other things. So we have to toot our own horns, and we have to be kind to ourselves and allow ourselves to like stand in the spotlight. It's really hard as a woman sometimes to stand in the spotlight.
Well, and anybody who gets offended by it is not one of your bragging buddies. And probably what it's doing is it's shining a light on what they feel their inadequacies are, which is probably just plain they're not being kind to themselves. And ergo, if they're not being kind to themselves, the only way to feel better is to make somebody else feel bad.
Ouch.
Right? So
yeah, totally. That is a brilliant observation.
So anytime they do that, it's just saying that you're being a meanie to yourself. Go out, celebrate yourself.
Yeah, I like
Tell me what's awesome about you.
Tell me all your awesomes. Tell me all your awesome things.
Oh, I like that.
Maybe I'll start a post.
Awesomes. That's a good post. Tell me all your awesomes.
Tell me all your awesomeness. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to hear. Like, y'all tell me, like, what are you awesome at? What are you awesome about? What is awesome about you? I love it. Thank you. Thank you for doing this with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I know it's been like a crazy week, crazy night. Appreciate it, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Velma, for bringing a great topic and some amazing insight.
Yeah, can't wait to hear everybody's awesomeness.
I cannot wait to hear everybody's awesomeness. So I'm going to post about that here shortly. Thank you guys. Take care. Have an awesome night. And be kind to each other.